few stowaways here. U.S. Border Patrol reports it's apprehended more than 52,000 children as of mid-June. Meanwhile, the Pope is now weighing in, saying this humanitarian emergency requires, as a first urgent measure, that these children be welcomed and protected. These measures, however, will not be sufficient unless they are accompanied by policies that inform people about the dangers of such a journey and, above all, that promote development in their countries of origin. All right, I'm joined now by Wisconsin Republican Congressman Sean Duffy, who does think the current law has to be changed. Congressman, good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, Chuck.
So is there any issue with having this law changed at all? There's some groups on the left, in particular some immigration advocacy groups, believe that it will you'll end up having a situation where a lot of these unaccompanied children are sent back to even more dangerous situations than they were escaping on the journey itself. How do you deal with that aspect when trying to change this law?
Well, twofold. One, I think we'll get bipartisan support for whatever bill we advance that'll expedite these kids getting back to their home countries and back at home with their parents. But we have to realize what's happening. These children are taking a trip with oftentimes drug dealers or the very gang members who are responsible for the violence in their home countries. And they're being maimed, they're being killed, they're being raped along this journey. And so to think that we have a policy that would encourage kids to go along this journey to the American border as a humane policy, it's not. If we can modify the law and get these kids healthy and send them back to their parents, what it does is it sends a message to these parents in Central America that say, listen, if you send your children on this very dangerous journey, they're not going to get amnesty. They're going to be sent right back to you. So don't send these future waves of kids, because if we don't change it, Chuck, this is not the end. This is just the beginning. We're going to have kids' lives risked time and time again. I don't know if you've seen the pictures, but we have kids floated in the Rio Grande, kids that are dying in the desert. So we have to change the policy to make sure we educate the parents and understand the risk isn't worth the potential benefit of amnesty, because they won't get that.
As with many laws that were passed with good intentions, and the one in 2008 is an example of one of those. It was done out of good intentions, having to do with, frankly, a stowaway that showed up here. Her parents died on the journey to the United States. What's the unintended consequence of fixing this law? The law itself created a legal loophole that nobody at the time imagined. Is anybody here imagining anything that when you close this loophole that it opens up another one that we're not thinking about?
Well, no, we'll have a great debate and try to close any future loophole, but I think we have to recognize what's really caused the crisis. There's really no more violence or poverty in Central America over the president's presidency. What's happened is the president has made statements about our dreamers, which many Republicans and Democrats have agreed with. Those are our young kids who are undocumented, living in America. He's made bold statements, and that has sent the message to this region that if you send your children to America, they will get amnesty. That's the only thing that's changed is the president's statements.
You think that's the issue and not the power and rise of the drug cartels who are always looking to make an extra buck?
Listen, the drug cartels haven't had a recent rise in the last several months. That's been going on for years. The real change has been the statements made by the president and the perception that's been given to these Central American countries and parents. And so that's why it's so important, this bipartisan legislation you led your segment with, is if we can get these kids healthy and we can get them back to their parents, and the parents see that these children are getting home, they're going to realize, listen, this very dangerous journey isn't worth it, because they won't get amnesty. What we've heard isn't true. And when we talk about the violence in these home countries again, Chuck, it's the very people who are creating the violence, the gang members and the drug dealers, that these parents are turning their children over to. I mean, and that America would have a set of policies that would encourage these children to go along this very dangerous journey is inhumane. We can't allow that to happen. So, go ahead.
Let me ask you very quickly, it sounded like you were supportive of the president's decision to give some amnesty for some of those dreamers pre-2007. You may not have liked the way it was done. Am I hearing that right? You're personally supportive of that policy as well?
For a segment of kids who have come, who've only known America, listen, I have 7 kids, Chuck. I'm a compassionate guy for kids. I want to do what's right by them. But I look at this policy, and especially as a former prosecutor who tried sexual assault cases, knowing that kids are going along that multiple 100-mile journey and they're getting raped, it makes me sick. And that's why we all have to stand together, and it's going to be the president and it's going to be the Congress that works to make sure we stop this flow. And it's going to be a team effort. And Chuck, one other thing, listen, the president's asked for the $3.7 billion. That's over $50,000 per child. Listen, this is a blank check, but you'll see the Congress give some money to make sure that the president can handle the crisis, process the kids, and get them back home. And we've got to make sure that we send money to these areas from USAID that already flows down to Central America, so they can have crop diversification. They can help improve their rule of law. And we already send money there. But the problem is that money is going to a green energy movement. The money's being spent on things like solar panels. Let's truly send it to solidify and strengthen these countries so we don't have moms and dads that want to send their kids to America on a dangerous